Ultimately, Louis is going to be found guilty. Actually, all 693 deputies that were a part of his trial said, yes, he is guilty. But then, when to decide should he go to prison or should he die, the vote was 374 for prison, 321 for like prison or exile. So he is going to be executed. And with his execution, he's going to be executed as Louis Capet. Capet was his family name because he's no longer the Louis the 16th. He's not going to be the king anymore. Something sweet before he was executed, he gave each of his kids a little package with a lock of his hair. How sweet is that? And they executed him via the guillotine. So that was that device that I showed you at the beginning with the blade that they would use for a quick execution. There you can see one of the executioners with Louis's head in the air. Remember, I've told you before that crowds forever have loved to see public executions, and there was cries of joy, and some of the blood was dripping down on people. One of the guys that was there said the blood tastes vilely salty. People would try to grab at whatever they could of Louis, and so they threw his body like in a wicker basket, which everybody that was guillotined got thrown in a wicker basket. So again, like he gets no special treatment, no royalty. And then they put the basket in a cart and they wheel him to a mass grave while people are shouting, "Long live the Republic! Long live liberty! Long live equality!" And so Louis is going to be executed. A little fun fact for you is the last execution that took place by guillotine in France was 1977, which is the very same year that the first Star Wars came out. So France had used the guillotine till 1977. Kind of hard to believe. Now, Marie Antoinette is also going to be guillotined about a year after Louis' execution. So she was 37 by this time. And so here she is being taken to the guillotine, and you can see like she doesn't look like a beautiful queen. Instead, she looks just like a regular old woman who's got a simple dress, stockings, and a hat on. And as she was walking up the steps ultimately to the guillotine, apparently she stepped on the foot of the guy who was going to be releasing the blade. And she said, "I beg your pardon. I did not do that on purpose." So she just stepped on his foot. That's her last words. And then she's going to die as well. And then her kids are going to kind of have a rough life for the rest of their lives as well, her two children. And if you're interested in that, you can look that up a little bit more. All right, French Revolution, done. Wrong. Instead, there's going to be this period in France where you're going to have these bourgeoisies, so these wealthier people from the third estate, like your white collar workers, that are going to try to lead France. Well, the Jacobins decide that they're going to lead with violence. And since they have this guillotine, they're going to execute anyone who is mourning the death of Louis Marie or is sympathetic toward the first estate, so the second estate. So they call these people the Jacobins, that were very much in favor of violence. They thought that the government would have to be revolutionary until there was peace. And so they call this period in France the Reign of Terror. Not a good thing to be known as. And so a crime could be like if you cried if your relative was guillotined, well, since you're mourning them, you're going to be killed. If you chop down trees that were planted in honor of the revolution, you'd be killed. If you used terms like monsieur or madame, which were old terms, then you would be killed. And then they would again just parade the bodies in open carts and then execute and dump in mass graves. And they would brag that an execution could take less than a minute. So you could just have execution after execution. And the guy that led it was Robespierre, and he led the group called the Committee of Public Safety. So Robespierre is a guy who leads the Reign of Terror. And ultimately, when he says, "Let terror be the order of the day," eventually he's going to be guillotined himself.